which is in-depth about all of our NFL takes, and we'll do that. First off, guys, sorry about Framber yesterday. I did end up tweeting out that I took him out of my lineups, and hopefully you guys were on that. Or most of my lineups. It just started to seem so much like Dusty had this game 6-7 plan, which is bizarre. Usually it's win and figure it out next, and it didn't happen. But so not a great night. But I did switch over, but there was nothing great to switch to. It's not like the 0 points couldn't have won you the stuff if you. I don't know. It was a rough night to get any pitching unless you. Actually, it's not true. Yes, because of what happened with the Braves pitcher, we really needed him. But anyway, it is what it is. Ready for another day and excited about football this weekend. Really sad about my Dodgers and disappointed. So hopefully we can find something, Sheets, tonight to make some money.
What are we going to do first, baseball or football?
I think we should do baseball first, and then people will probably just, as they tend to do, ask questions about football as they start getting in here. I'm actually going to tweet out right now, but why don't we start talking a little bit about baseball on this little slate? I guess, just we can go position by position. I think it's probably the easiest thing to do for this one.
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, crap. Can you start for me? I have to take this. I apologize.
All right, I'll hold you off for a second.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, guys, we're gonna keep going here. I was going to try and tweet out to get some people in here, but we'll get Cheats back and get his takes on the baseball slate in a minute. Once I get his wave from him, I can just let him back in the room. As of right now, you should just see me on your screen, and he'll be back with us in just a second. But anyway, so it's an interesting little two-gamer. I'm glad we still have two gamers going. I'm not rooting for the Astros, but I would feel better if I knew we had two games coming tomorrow as well, because that would be the Dodgers at least survive another day. It's gonna be a rough one, guys. It's gonna be a little bit of a rough stretch for me personally, because I am, as you know, a massive Dodger fan. I'm a huge Dodger guy. And it's a really, really it doesn't feel good. It feels like the same thing every year. It doesn't feel good with what's happening with Kershaw. What's up, Ken Jones? Sorry it's raining there in Maryland. But anyway, we got to get to tonight's slate. I got to stop thinking about the Dodgers and get Cheats back in here soon, because I cannot, get over these losses and the Kershaw thing and the historic stuff. It's really painful. It's really, really tough to go through. Heading into tonight's slate, I don't think we have actual confirmation on a pitcher for the Braves yet. I think that Tomlin is the guy who most people are slating out to be the guy. I don't think you're considering, no matter who the Braves pitch, this is their bullpen game that they're going to use. They're going to stay freed, if needed for Game 6, and then Game 7 you'll have Ian Anderson back again, or vice versa, whatever, how they want to do it. But that's basically what it is. So for me tonight, I just think I'm sticking a little bit chalky and going with the Valdez and Snell. Looks like Sheets is about to pop back in with us. Sheets, I was just talking about the pitching on tonight's slate and saying how it's kind of hard to get away from playing Valdez and Snell. And I don't mind a shot on May, but you got to know that the leash is incredibly short.
I'm going to be playing Valdez and Snell on FanDuel. And I am going to be playing a decent amount of May on DraftKings, unless you tell me that that's a bad idea.
I'm going to have a little bit of him. I just think that I'll just say that if there's any trouble at all, he's gone.
Okay.
This is a must-win. This is not an anything else. This is not a we need to get through innings. But he's awesome, and he can get through some innings, and get through 3. He could end up with 12, 15 points possibly. I think Snell and Valdez is basically where you're going to end up. I'm a little confused right now because I'm trying to retweet this out to my followers because they tweeted it out, but I for some reason can't access their tweet, which is really frustrating to me. So the BetQL peoples, but I'll get there in a minute and let everybody else know that the show is going on right now, because I know we go on a little bit early sometimes. Anyway, Sheets, what does that mean? It's a J Minter. You know what that means, Sheets?
No. Oh, he's a starter for somebody? Is he pitching?
That's what we're going to talk about as a pitcher. I'm sorry. Well, whatever it is, it's nobody we're using, in my opinion. I don't think that there's any real leash for those guys, and I think you're just getting a little too creative that you don't need to. You can try and find places to get different, leave money on the table, do things elsewhere. It might make a little more sense.
Well, the first thing I would like to say is that, in lineups where you don't use Valdez, or even in ones you do, actually, because it's a 2-game slate, I do like the Tampa guys. I think they're really, really cheap, and I think aren't they gonna be the lowest owned of all these guys?
The Tampa guys?
Yeah, or no?
Yeah, I think they are gonna be.
Yeah, so I'm gonna play them. I like again, I presume these guys are playing. I liked is Renfroe in? Renfroe? Rousseau, Lau, Diaz, Margot. I do like those guys more than the Houston guys. You know what I mean? Like if you're playing Snell and Valdez or whatever it is, I actually like the Tampa guys more than the Houston guys, if that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird with the Renfroe thing. I mean, I think the ownership is going to be high on these guys and higher than the projections are a little bit.
So?
But I do think this first game is going to have a little less interest. And I'm just saying, like, if they do that BS again and leave that roof open, I don't like this stuff. The Dodgers deserve to get where they are. They don't have to play in a wind game where the wind's blowing all over the field to play in another stadium. It makes no sense. It's just ridiculous. They should have been at least on the West Coast. What's up, Pagliarulo? But yeah, the Dodgers are going to be the main shock with some of the Atlanta guys, I think, as of right now. And I think you'll get lower ownership on the guys at the bottom of the Astros lineup, both Diaz especially, Maldonado, Gurriel, Tucker. Pretty much everywhere there on down is where the real low ownership is. And then same thing pretty much on the other side with Margot, Adames, Wendell, and Zunino. But Brousseau and Renfroe, the thing is, like, if they really go off, obviously Valdez will come out of the game. But if you want to do the stack, I'm all about it because if they've scored that many runs anyway, then he's already gone. So I mostly am leaning on like a 3-3-2 kind of a thing. And I like the Astros personally, so I'm going that route. And they're going to be lower enough at the bottom. So I'll get 3 Astros and I'll probably get 3 Dodgers and 2 Rays in my lineups and sort of treat that as the right way I'm trying to do this. I don't think this is a spot where I think the Dodgers have that, like, their offense obviously should go off the most. But if I start getting to that 4 or 5 range again, you're going to just deal with too much chalk.
Yeah, you want to do it again. You want to just go by position and see if we can't figure it out that way.
Let's figure it out. So, pitcher, I think I'm already clear anyway. You know who I'm playing. Let's go to the other spots. What do you think about the catcher spot and how? I mean, to me, this is one spot we can get different in, and it almost really worked out last night. And I think it's an interesting, both Zunino and Maldonado make for interesting plays in my opinion.
Yeah, it looks like. I mean, it looks like Will Smith is just for me, just light years the best play, no?
Yeah.
So, and he's going to be the most popular, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, so for me, it's him, and then the other 3 are just kind of equal. So, I mean, so if I have that situation, you think Maldonado again is going to be the lowest owned?
I would imagine it would continue that way.
Yeah, so I'd probably play either Will Smith or Maldonado, I suppose.
Yeah. Will Smith, I mean, Maldonado will be the most popular. I mean, Will Smith is obviously the most popular. Zunino is going to be – Will Smith is going to be astronomically more popular. And then so will both Will Smith and Darnell will be much more popular than the others. But it will be – I think it should be the lowest. It's definitely projected to be Maldonado as of right now. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going different again. I'm going to keep sticking with my Tampa Bay, Houston catchers instead of going the other way.
Okay, what do you want to do next? First base?
Yep.
So for first base, you could have some choices. So first of all, Brousseau is available at both first and second on DraftKings.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, it seems as though Freeman's the best play. And then again, I'll ask your ownership thing, and I get this stuff you got to look for because I think Muncy, Gurriel, and Brousseau, I can make chases for all of them.
So I think with the Minter starting thing, which I should have picked up on the Minter thing, like who was first, but I think that it's going to make people less on the lefty Dodgers, and especially at first where Freeman is going to be a clearly better standout of a play, at a cheaper price than Muncy as a better hitter, all this, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's interesting so I think it could make Muncy, now look, he's still going to be 20+% owned probably, but it's going to make him much less owned than he would have been otherwise, in my opinion. Right. So, or you could play the Brousseau and then use your second base spot for whatever. That's sort of the route I would lean. I don't mind Gurriel, but I probably won't get to Diaz as much just because I'd rather use him at second if I was going to pay down because I do like Muncy and Freeman at the top. And I'm going to play these, now I've decided my Dodgers are all going to be lefties against Minter. Because it's not going to, he's going to be in there long, and it'll take enough of the ownership away to where at least they'll be a little lower owned than Mookie Betts will be.
So once again, I mean, we're talking about a 0-game slate, like a 2-game slate, and and when you have guys that you like kind of equal, there's a couple of ways you could do it. Number one, just take the lowest owned guys, or like I used to do in basketball, which you should probably do more in baseball, especially in baseball, is just make sure that is pair the guys together, you know? So like if I think Gurriel is like one of the top guys, let's just say that I think Gurriel is he's ranked okay for me, and also Altuve, let's just say he was an equal second baseman. Put the two of them together, so at least you get correlation between the two of them. I mean, again, that seems like something should be really intuitive, but maybe I should just reemphasize that.
Well, one thing is just to that point, right? So if you play Gurriel, what I think you like, if you're considering Gurriel and Diaz, use them in the same lineup and play them at first and second. That's going to be different. But you know what I mean?
There you go.
That's the kind of idea I think that can make you a little bit different. So. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I hate Diaz.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, who knows? Even if Snell comes out, he's out probably. Yeah. So it's.
Oh, is that true?
Oh yeah, he doesn't ever get. They only have one platoon they ever use. It's him and Reddick.
Okay.
And it's weird that and Reddick's also their best defensive outfielder by a long shot. He's a Gold Glove winner, so they'll get Reddick in the game. There's zero chance that Aledmys Diaz finishes this game unless he hits like 3 home runs in his first 3 at-bats.
I don't need it then. Okay.
But look, you might get the one pop out of them, which is why playing those two together though is kind of interesting. I don't know. It's just nobody's going to do that. Second base sheets. What sort of stands out to you?
I mean, it's same guys as last night. So Brousseau again at second base, Lau at second base. Wow, that's a tough matchup for him. But you know what? He hit a home run off a lefty yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I don't know how I'm going to do it. Chris Taylor, is he going to play? He's going to play, right?
Yeah, he should play today. But I mean, yeah, he's probably batting doing. I mean, like, I don't know why they would play him over Kike exactly, but they might. Well, I guess Kike had a bad night last night, kind of. So, but it might be Kike.
Yeah. So again, it's the same deal, man. I hate to say this, all these guys, Lau, Taylor. I'm just naming the 4 second basemen. And I say that because those of you that watch me on these shows, I mean, if there's a standout, I will tell you. Like I happen to think Freeman's clearly the best first baseman, for example. But these second basemen, I think they're all very similar to me when I look at the way my numbers spew out. So what I'm going to probably do is just go, wait as long as I can, check my ownerships, and just take the lowest own of the guys, I suppose.
Yeah, I like Altuve the best of all of them. He's had a really good history against Snell too. Always been good against lefties. Looks really good in general right now at the plate. This game, we got to bring up the shadows, how they're going to affect this game.
Oh, that's brutal, isn't it?
Yeah, and it does affect some of the things for the full game stack. Partly what makes me want to do that 3-3-2 stuff. None of the weather hitting is like, there's going to be 2 or 3 innings where it's going to be hard to see in this game. The Dodgers are going to have that possibly weird weather or a closed roof in a bad hitter's park. So that neither of the spots stand out as being great. So I'm sort of just getting my favorite pieces. And Altuve does stand out as being my favorite piece. I do think Albies makes a lot of sense as well. Albies and Altuve would be my favorite too. I like the stolen base upside with Albies too. But I'm probably, if Kike's in the lineup, I would probably be willing to take a shot at 3K on Kike.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and by the way, like I was right yesterday with the Rios thing. Maybe I'll be.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't even following that. we were just speculating who was going to play, right?
No. Below Above was telling me how there's no way in the world he was going to play.
Oh.
Because what the Dodgers do, and we got a whole conversation about it on the air.
Yeah, I wasn't really following what you guys were talking about. So I'll give you the thumbs up and the W. I don't even know what it was.
Well, it makes a difference because had it happened after lock, you ended up with a 10% owned Rios where he was 70% owned the night before, I think 70, something like that.
Right.
So, or 60 something. And that was before lock. Imagine if it was after lock that it was announced that how they were going to not play Will Smith. Then you would have gotten the leverage on Will Smith also. It was a brilliant spot. It really was. It just needed we needed the lineup to release after the thing.
Yep.
So that was the problem. Anyway, but I think which takes me right back into third base again, and I am just going to keep playing the most powerful player other than Randy Arozarena in the world. And you know who that is? It's Edwin Rios. So,
and who's that? A third base?
Rios. This guy is a monster.
You think he's going to play?
No, not with Minter. My initial lineup, he was supposed to start because it was going to be Tomlin. But then with Minter starting, I don't think they would do it. But I'll have to. I think we'll get their lineup before lock, but just in case they decide to try it early, because they can always make a lot of subs later if they do put him in there early. He's not a great defensive player, so he can DH potentially. More likely it's just gonna be Pollock or somebody like that. I'm just throwing that out there.
Wait, so you lost me. So who do you like at third base?
Well, I would like Rios if he was gonna be there.
Oh, okay.
And the lineups are projecting him to be in because it was Tomlin before. It's just hard to get the updated thing. And would the Dodgers, if Minter's only going to pitch one inning, let's say, then they would still leave Rios in because theoretically that means Rios wouldn't even face him. So it depends on what the Dodgers do with their lineup. That's the answer. And other than Rios, the obvious best play is Bregman, even though he's sucked lately. And after him, it would probably be. I think I would probably lean to. I know people will like Diaz, but I think I'm. Well, if Riley's going to be about the same owned as Diaz, well, no, I like Riley. I think Riley's going to be lower owned than that. I think I would prefer Riley over Diaz.
Okay. I guess the only thing I would say is that my least favorite is Wendell, and then I actually don't like Riley as much as. And not to say that you like Riley. I have Diaz a little bit better than Riley. But like you said, if Diaz is going to be higher owned, that makes up for that. I still have Turner as my favorite. That's where I am. I have him better than Bregman. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the one you're really going to get the low ownership on is Wendell, but I get it.
For a reason, I guess.
Even with all this, like let's say Rios does crack the lineup, I don't think he's going to be that owned again. I'll just keep playing this guy. Like. That's where I'm at.
Who is we'll go to shortstop first. I forgot.
Yeah. What was the question going to be?
I was going to say is Pollock. You think playing? Pollock, Pollock Peterson and stuff.
All right. Let's move over to short. So
all right, shortstop is easy for me. But again, easy for me is going to be easy for everybody. For me, it's Seager. And just for fun, I'll play zero. Maybe I'll try to play zero Correa. Just coming off of the walk-off. But Seager will be clearly my favorite. He's going to be, obviously really chalky. I think I got to play chalk somewhere. And for me, okay, let me put you another way. My two favorite players at their position relative to their other people at the position is Seager and Freeman, right? So I guess if I'm going to have to eat chalk, if that is in fact my opinion, right, those will probably be the places I would eat it, or on the positions where I have them that much ahead of them, I suppose. So,
did you see that Seager at bat last night, which was sort of summing up what happened with the Dodgers? He hit on the left field line that just misses what would have been a double or triple when it was a 1-1 game. Then he hits one on the next pitch, smokes one down the right. I mean, these are like 105-mile exit velocities out. And then the next one, he hits just a line drive right down the line, but right at Freeman. And they were all like 105-mile-an-hour kind of shots. And I'm just like, that's what was happening. That's what it takes to get Seager out these days, it feels like. Having said that, I love taking the lowest owned guy here, and I actually like him a lot tonight, and that's Dansby Swanson. He is my favorite shortstop play because he's going to be the lowest owned. I like the stolen base upside for Atlanta tonight, and I don't want to get too much exposure. I also think that, like, as much as if Seager's ownership I really felt was going to be lower because Minter was starting, I would go for it, but I don't think it's going to be that much. And I think Correa will get ownership too. I just think Swanson's going to be left out. I think if people pay down, they'll pay down for Adames and the lefty-righty. And Swanson sort of gets left out and has, I think, stolen base and power upside. So he's my shortstop in my big lineup as of right now.
I like it because it kind of falls in line with what I just mentioned. So, like, if you look at my stuff, I have Seager like number one, and then the other three shortstops, I have them exactly equal as far as like his ratings and stuff. So if Swanson's going to be the lowest owned, for me, that's easy. You know what I mean? Right. I'll take Swanson. I think that's a great call by you.
Yeah, he's my guy for today, I think, and I love the price too. It makes everything be able to do everything else I want, basically.
If I wish I knew what I wanted. So outfield. Okay, my two top guys are just totally opposite. So I like paying all the way up for Mookie if I can do it. I think I can. And I like paying all the way down for Renfroe. So, but again, these are not total standouts over these other guys. So if you can make any of these other guys work, I will say that the Dodgers outfielders, whichever ones get in, I like. Okay,
Right.
that's but I guess everybody's gonna like them too. But so for me, Mookie would be my favorite, and then pay down for Renfroe, and then just kind of hoping you give me some guidance.
So I like again, I'm doing the Dodger lefty thing, so I'm sort of prioritizing Bellinger over the other ones.
Okay.
I also like the way he's looked at the plate, even though he's had some really bad at bats as well. I think he sets up well for a guy in kind of a bullpen game who's really a good guy at hitting mistake pitches. Some of these pitchers who just throw high heat have given him trouble lately, and I don't think you're going to see that so much with their bullpen today. So I think they'll try it, but I just don't think you're talking about the best version. So I think he'll be a little bit lower owned than he'll be significantly lower owned than Mookie. He'll be significantly lower owned than Springer. So I'll play him over the other guys. And after him, a Rosarena is always projected to not be that owned, but he always is crazy or really high owned. I love Rosarena, obviously. Like, how do you not?
These guys are ridiculous.
It actually feels stupid to even say that out loud. Like, of course you love Rosarena. What an obvious thing. But if in fact he gets overlooked a little bit, go for it. I actually really like these Houston guys. In the outfield tonight. I think that lefties get no ownership here potentially, or very little. And I would just much rather personally, what I would do is rather play with the way I'm building Brantley and Tucker over guys like Margot and Renfroe. They're better real life players. They're better hitters. They'll stay in the game, and they offer multiple ways to get there. Both Brantley, because he's just such a good overall hitter, he's almost never going to give you like nothing, and he's also got enough power to get you there. Tucker, with his speed, can get you there potentially later in the game. You might need to get a stolen base out of him. There's just some upside there. And then, if Valdez, even if he struggles and you stack Tampa Bay, for example, I mean, depending on the score, if it's within a few runs, you're not going to see Renfroe around very long.
So Mr. Wise Guy Baker, right? So if Valdez starts struggling, what is he doing?
What does that mean?
Like, who's he bringing in?
He'll bring in the bullpen guys he brought in yesterday. He'll bring in Javier. He'll bring in the guys like that.
Okay.
Or maybe he'll bring in McCullers, I guess. I mean, I don't know. But I don't think we need to get that creative, because it's kind of weird. Like, I guess it's not impossible, but it just seems so unlike. He seemed to have a very clear plan when I was watching the pregame stuff and reading all his takes on pitchers and stuff like that. It just seemed very much like it was like his plan.
Not to stray too much in this, and again, I don't know why this particular thing tilted me so much, but I don't really listen to New York talk radio like anymore. I mean, just because there's so much other national stuff going on. And so in like 10 years, I happen to turn it on, and like 85% of the New York radio talk is about how Boone should be fired, specifically for only letting Garcia go one inning and then bringing in Happ.
Oh my God, get out of here.
Hey, but I was mad. I was gonna tell you, I was mad. Maybe they all had
game 1 or 2 though. What was that? Was that even like a factor in this?
What's that?
Was that even a fact? Was that like game 1 or 2 or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Well, New York is ridiculous.
New York really is ridiculous. All right. What else have we got here? Is there any other position? Anything else that like stands out that we're talking about? I think that the way you build is you try to get just the lower owned parts of these spots that you like. I mean, it sounds obvious, so just let's do that.
Yeah.
And I think these Houston lefties are a way to do that. I think if you go full Tampa stack, that's some way to do it, somewhat. But it's not where I want to go. And I think if you don't play more than 3 or 4 Dodgers, even 4 feels like going to get chalky. But I'm playing only lefty Dodgers. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
And while I say the thing about Renfroe, I do like his power upside enough to where, sure, I'll throw him in at this is such a weird situation. Because you could have everybody like from the Dodgers, you could have like 4 different hitters after the first inning potentially, like depending on how they want to go. I don't think they would do it that early. It's just potentially like if the bases were loaded or something. Even in the first inning, you might not get your first at bat. It's a weird situation. But Tucker being my favorite because I think he'll be the lowest owned. And it doesn't get me anymore if I try to play like Renfroe or what. I mean, it's just not like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, if I try to play Brantley at 100, I don't need that extra 100 anywhere. Anyway, that's sort of where I'm going for right now. And I think that making Maldonado your catcher, that's another way to get, more different. Even though, look, some people are going to have it, but it's more different.
I hope that the Dodgers win. Otherwise, this is going to be the last 2-game slate probably.
Get out of here, cheats.
What? That's what I'm saying.
I know you need both teams to win for there to be another game.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So we need the Dodgers to win anyway. The Dodgers are going to come back and win this series. My prediction is they win tonight's game 8-3,
Wow.
and that I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that in the Tampa Bay Houston game, not on a limb, I guess. I'm gonna take Houston again, 6-3.
Yeah, I'm gonna predict the Rays close that one out, and I don't have a score, but the Dodgers, I just have to. I mean, I think they get this one. I think they get this one.
I hope you're right, my friend. All right, let's jump over to some football. Like, guys, get some QQs in the chat. Talk about what you want to talk about. Get some QQs, whether it's baseball or football. But let's talk about some football. Me and
so do you want to do like football game by position?
Yeah, we'll just talk about our favorites at each position because we already went through all this stuff. By the way, we have gotten news already that Deontay Johnson is, since our show, this is how much it happens on Friday. Deontay Johnson's out. Julio Jones is in.
Those are both very interesting things.
They're huge pieces. No doubt about it. I thought that right away. But we will talk some football. I'm going to write a little thing in chat just to make sure to, get some to tell people the QQs. Sometimes they respond a little faster. Hold on. Boy, I see my question. I see all these other questions, but I don't see them in the chat room. That's so strange. Maybe that's part of the issue. What's going on? Maybe it is a little hiccupy. All right. We'll talk about quarterbacks. So, Sheets, who is the guy you end up finding yourself with? And you can talk about the stacks you like because, along with it if you want.
Well, it's a little different because for me, there's a quarterback that stands out clearly among everybody else as far as just, best play. But I don't know what I'm going to do stack-wise with him. So, and that's Ryan Fitzpatrick for me. Like for me, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the clear, call it cash game play, call it whatever you want. But for me, just on points per dollar, on projections, and what I think is going to happen, he's the most likely to get 3x or whatever. And then after that, there's like a bunch, right? So then you could just go for lower owned guys. I'll just kind of list. I mean, my next group are Tannehill, Watson, Cousins, and Stafford. I'll let you talk about Lamar or whatever. But as far as like just top overall quarterback, I think Fitzpatrick is my favorite.
Yeah, as of right now, I only have 5 quarterbacks. I'm only using 2 of them in like 5% of my lineups, those would be Watson and Stafford. I like Fitzpatrick, Rodgers, Roethlisberger, and Jackson. Jackson's my favorite. This is a week where it's really easy. You can tell just by looking at the slate right away that we don't have anybody to compete for him from a running standpoint. There's nobody like Lamar. And Lamar hasn't had that game yet, but this is a great situation for him to have it. And I think he opens it up this week, and I think you see him run for at least 1 touchdown. I think you see him running a little bit more than he has been so far to start the year. I feel like he's almost tried to make people who sort of criticize him like a little bit. He's become a little too pocket passy. Just go out there and be you, Lamar. He's the only guy who can really break the slate entirely. Like Rodgers would have to throw 6 touchdowns, and that's possible, but it's unlikely to throw 6 touchdowns. Like Lamar could do it with like 100 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns and 1 throwing. Like he could really, he could break the slate like alone. He's the only guy who can. So he's my favorite. Roethlisberger right now is my second favorite, and really it's close between him and Rodgers. I like Tampa Bay's defense is the only reason I'm giving the edge here to Roethlisberger. I think that game is sneaky shootoutable. I liked it better when Deontay Johnson was in, but I'm totally fine with playing him with Smith-Schuster, Claypool. And by the way, look out for James Washington. That's the guy I made sure that I want to get some ownership of, who's now filling the third receiver role. We've just seen it happen so much there. And also on those same lines, as bad as he's been, at the seemingly overpriced James Conner is an interesting add to the stack as well.
Yeah. You want to go to running back?
Let's go to running back.
You want to go first?
My favorite game stacks have nothing. I don't want the quarterbacks,
Yeah.
So bad.
So for me, running back is my favorite is by a decent amount, honestly, is Derrick Henry. 7,300, he stands out for me as my favorite. And he's going to be pretty chalky, but these 3 guys underneath him, our rating is good plays, but they're going to be, even more chalky. Maybe, I don't know, like Mike Davis, Alexander Madison, David Montgomery, they're all fine, but they're going to be chalky. Aaron Jones, I like him fine along those lines. Maybe the guy who goes a little lower owned than these people, maybe not though, is Myles Gaskin. And I kind of have him along, just as good as these others. That could be a pretty interesting game script. Now you turn me on to not a narrative, but something that happens a lot, which I'm going to have to think about a little bit. This idea that Matt Breida just kind of gets in the way of, number one running backs or whatever, breaking the slate from time to time, where he will do it himself. And then the other two guys, James Robinson, Jonathan Taylor. Again, this is nothing earth-shattering, but I like those guys. And again, not to give everybody on the slate, but you could always play 2%, 5% owned Joe Mixon.
So, yeah, it's an interesting one because I like some chalky guys, sort of like you do, but I don't. I'm fading a lot of the Madison stuff. You know what I mean? I just am not going to be as high on that. Also, I do think Derrick Henry is going to be my highest owned running back. It's again another weird week where some of my favorite players in certain spots are not my favorite game stacks. I don't love that Houston-Tennessee game as much as some people do, but I do love Derrick Henry here. And I also, I worry a little bit about the short week. I know they did rest him at the end and all that stuff. I just worry a little bit about it. I was very into David Montgomery, and he's actually not going to be as high owned as I thought he was going to be as of right now. But I'm sort of maybe a little lower on him. The other guys who I'm higher on than the field would be Taylor, Gaskin, Robinson, Ronald Jones, Devontae Freeman, Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson, and Mike Davis with the field, basically. But I'll be underweight on the other main ones, and then basically anybody I didn't mention you won't really see in my lineups except for James Conner and in a stack, or maybe one Joe Mixon run back with my indie guys that I like.
Well, I'm not going to be able to talk you into it, but I we'll get to stacks maybe a little later. But keep something in mind: this Tennessee-Houston game. Just like Damian Lillard is kind of like the king of generating fantasy points when his team is behind and whatever. There's nobody better than Deshaun Watson from Houston. I mean, like the more the other team does well, I mean, he just never gives up trying to get fantasy points. I guess that's one of the reasons why this game, I don't know, just for whatever reason, I can't quite get away from.
I see all of that. My issue is that Tennessee and Houston are both, in my opinion, better defensive teams than they're giving credit for. And
okay. Well, there you go.
Especially, I don't think Houston's like a great defensive. It's more the way they play that gives up a lot of points, I feel like. And they actually have like a decent line anyway. Tennessee has always been like that's how they got as far as they did last year, and nearly could have almost won the Super Bowl possibly. Yeah. Anyway, I think that they ground and pound, and I like playing that narrative when everybody else is going to be on it. So I'm sort of away from that one a little bit. But wide receiver.
All right. I have two wide receivers that are just light years better than everybody else, and their ownership is going to be reflecting that, and that's Adam Thielen and Devontae Adams. Minnesota has a nut matchup. Thielen is their top target, and he's only 7,300, and he's the top play. Devontae Adams has, I would say, a little bit of a worse matchup, but Rodgers is locked in on him whenever he's playing. So these are the two best plays paying up. And then you have like a whole mess of guys underneath that. So I would just try to go for low-owned guys. So let me just throw, two guys out there. One, and both we kind of talked about earlier. One would be Darius Slayton from Giants. And if you want to run that back with McLaurin, that's fine too. But the other guy that maybe we didn't spend enough time on last show was I'll take a shot with Chris Godwin. So if you're going to play Devontae Adams, you run that back with Chris Godwin. He might not be as owned as maybe otherwise. And that's those. I mean, again, you can play a lot of guys. I'll let you talk about some of the others. Yeah,
I'm finding Godwin and Jones to be my main run backs in my Aaron Rodgers to Adams stacks. And by the way, Adams is not going to be that high owned tonight. He is. I like him, and I like the idea of running it back, especially with Godwin. But my highest owned guy is going to be by far and away. It's not even close as of right now. Is T.Y. Hilton. I'm not sure that I will end up with exactly as much of him as I have, but he's currently in more than half my lineups. and he is a great price. I think this is the breakout game against Cincinnati's soft secondary. I think that we haven't really gotten a chance to see that explosion, and this is when we get to see it. I finally got locked in for 10 targets, first double-digit target game of the season last week. He's trending in the right direction that way with Rivers. I think this is the spot where I like him. It worries me a little bit they could blow him out, but I am going to take the shots on T.Y., and even if they do, I think they get T.Y. involved. So he's my favorite. My most used other receivers for one reason or another are these guys, and this is where I guess I'm getting different because I love Juju, I love Darius Slayton, I love McLaurin, who's going to be pretty popular, but that's not that different. I love Devontae Adams. I'll be ahead of the field on Claypool. I'll be with the field on Galladay, and I'll be ahead of the field on, no longer on Zacchaeus but I'll be ahead of the field on Jeff Smith, also who you mentioned.
And you're also going to be ahead of the field on freaking Jamison Crowder, no?
And I'm going to be ahead of the field on Jamison Crowder, but that's a little bit of a. He's not going to be. I think I'll have these guys in more lineups than I have Crowder in, but Crowder's going to be less owned than these guys are. I think. I'll also have more than I'll be overweight on Odell Beckham and James Washington there. I'm going to take a shot on this James Washington. I want to read a little bit more and look a little bit into it, but with Deontay gone, I think that he could take on that third role. He still has speed. He's got breakability, and he's getting targets all year. It just he hasn't had that solid game yet. I hate that he's 4,200. If he was 3K, I think I might take him over Jeff Smith. But as it stands, Jeff Smith is going to be my big spend down.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, by the way.
And all of the Atlanta receivers now should have spread out ownership. So take your shots if you want to, because I don't think you're going to get upset over the like crazy on that one. Ken Jones, good point. Yes, we like Trey Burton too. Sheets actually, as he pointed out on our other show, which we'll load up here on BetQL in a little bit. He likes Burton for even in his like basically sort of a cashy kind of a lineup, and I think it works out really well.
Yeah, so Burton was well. Again, I would make sure that what's his name isn't playing.
Ali Cox.
Ali Cox, but I think he's an excellent play at 3,100.
Rivers loves to lock into the tight end too in general. So,
but I think that the best play for me is a tight. Are we going to tight end now?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I like a lot of tight ends this week, more than usual.
Yeah, so my favorite is again going back to that same game is Jonnu Smith. And then after that, my next best is Mark Andrews. Now I know you like someone a little more than all those guys. I'll let you talk about that.
Well, I have to be underweight somewhere. I like Jonnu, but I have to try and be underweight a little bit somewhere. And I'm playing enough Derrick Henry to where I can skip the other part of the game.
But I'll let you talk about the Philly guy, about whatever. But
oh, sorry, I thought you were done. My bad.
Yeah, and Gesicki, I think I like too from Miami.
You know, that was one I actually didn't have as much interest in at first, and then I started looking a little bit further, and I started wondering why, especially as I'm trying to find someone. And I think I just thought the ownership would be too high, and it's going to be up there. But I still think I want to get some shares there because I will have some Fitzpatrick, and I'm a little lower on Devontae Parker and higher on Preston Williams, but I think Gesicki would make a lot of sense also. Is where I'm at. Where I'm struggling with is I really like Zach Ertz this week. I think they needed him to block last week against the blitzing Steelers. And Baltimore's got a good line too, but they won't be doing that. And I think they'll be sending him out on a lot more passes. You're going to see a lot more targets for Ertz this week, and I think you're going to get him at really low ownership at an odd time. It's one of those spots where I just know in the high buy-ins he's going to be twice what he's owned in the low buy-ins. I love Eric Ebron. He's a part of the Pittsburgh stack that I mentioned that I maybe didn't mention this time, but that I like a lot. I like Trey Burton also. Again, I like Jonnu Smith, but he's going to be 20%. I'll probably have 10. You know, I just want to be low. Like I need to have a little bit different. I can't just play all the same, everybody. And I like too many different tight ends that I want to mix it up. I want to take shots with Evan Ingram. I want to take shots with Austin Hooper. I want to take shots with Logan Thomas. I want to take shots with Irv Smith Jr. even possibly. That's when I'm still – and Gesicki. So – and even like Robert Tonyan I like a little bit. So there's a lot of guys who are on my list, and I really haven't narrowed it down beautifully yet. But I think that my number one, if I have to default to one, would be Ertz. And then after him, well, I have Ebron as higher owned just partly to do with things. I really like Mark Andrews and on the high end, and I really like Trey Burton on the low end.
Okay, defense. There's a lot of good plays. Starting with, I guess, the chalkiest of them all is probably going to be Miami. They rate to be my best play. But, I mean, look at all this. The Colts, you can pay up. You can pay the Colts. You could certainly always go play New England.
They just
Was that?
Sorry, we just got announced a few things. So
Oh no.
Riley Cox is in fact out, which
Okay.
is Sean Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey are also out.
They're always.
By the way, Fulgham again. By the way, I didn't mention him earlier for Green Bay. He's another one you can use.
Titans are decent defense too, but the one that again I might go back to if they got to be high owned, I guess. But in a high total game that people are going to be playing from the offensive sides, I'll take a shot with Minnesota. I mean, this game could go different ways, man. I mean, yeah, you could say that Atlanta is going to play for its new coach and do whatever, and Julio's back and all this, or they could just get wrecked, or a combination of the two. Maybe score points, but Ryan throws a pick six or two. I don't know. I think Minnesota's there, and I like the one. I'll steal one of yours that I'm into is Washington. Daniel Jones is a freaking turnover machine. So anybody going against the Giants is always a good defense.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of good options this week for defense. I have the Dolphins and Vikings as my highest. I think the Vikings actually are going to be my highest owned. And I don't think obviously those are pretty common out there. I love the Steelers if you're going to pay up against Baker. But again, like this hammer Steelers, I'm nervous about saying that because I don't really want a defensive touchdown because I want my Steelers guys to get the touchdowns. I like Washington. Who else do I have? I have Washington as another one against the Giants. I have the Patriots against Denver if you're spending up. The Colts against Cincinnati if you're spending up. And then it's like the mixture of the Jets, Browns, and Ravens in all different price tiers. But mostly it's going to be on the low end, the Vikings, on the medium end, the Dolphins, high end, the Steelers, other medium, Washington, other high end, Colts.
Okay, for those of you who want, again, this is, I want to say off the board, but this is like kind of a different way of looking at things. Like if you want to just get yourself, it's a tiny little bit different than a lot of people but it's not that, off the wall, is what a lot of people do. I mean, especially if you're playing the Millie Maker or any of these big MTDs, GPPs where you'll get a lot of experts like scripting and doing whatever, I'm noticing that, say, like Miami's defense, and Myles Gaskin's a good play. I know what people are going to do. They're going to try to correlate the defense with the running back. So you're going to get a lot of Gaskin with the Miami defense. You're getting a lot of they're going to play Jonathan Taylor. Probably a decent amount of they're going to be with Indianapolis defense, or likewise Derrick Henry with Titans defense, or Madison with Minnesota defense. I still don't believe that the correlation between the running back and the defense is as strong as maybe people believe with respect to how often they just automatically plug it in when they do their scripting. So if you want to just be tiny little bit different, like try not to necessarily do that, because first of all, some of these running backs are going to get their fantasy points not by just running out the clock, but by just by being part of a shootout. So it's not exactly just play the running back in the defense. If the running back does well, then the other team's not going to score. It doesn't necessarily work that way. So I guess that's the first thing. I'm just eyeing the defenses, and I'm just instinctively pairing these running backs, which we already like, with the defense. So I think a lot of people are going to do that. So if you want to do something a little, just I guess tiny little bit different, if you play the mini max or the 3 max or the 20 max or whatever it is, maybe set a rule you don't pair the running back with the defense or something. I don't know. Maybe something.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually have Ken Jones brought up something interesting because he said he loves the Cincinnati defense, who I didn't mention, but I do like them also. Rivers does make mistakes. He turns it over, and it's the weirdest thing. So what you were saying also made me kind of occur to me. I think there's a correlation between the Indianapolis offense, especially like if I'm going to play T.Y. Hilton, and the Cincinnati defense. Maybe that's my run back. Because if they are making mistakes and turning the ball over, which is how you're going to get points on defense or whatever, maybe you even do get lucky defensive touchdown or a safety or something like that. That's gonna make this game a little bit closer if they're making those mistakes, which should lead to more offense from Indy. So I'm actually like thinking about, okay, if I play Hilton, I can play the Bengals defense with him, and I actually think that the correlation makes a little bit of sense. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that we usually think about stuff like that in like 2-game slates. I don't know how much I could get in there, an 11-game slate, but we talk about that a lot over the last couple of years. That it's not necessary. it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to always, avoid defenses when you have offense on the other side. It just depends on what type of offense is on the other side.
Right. This is what me and Grant did for a while. And we felt like we're the only ones on it. Like I always talk about, we would play the Chargers, play the Stacks, play the defense against the Chargers and everything, and then also try whenever we weren't playing the Chargers defense, if we like the other side of the game, play the Chargers defense against them both because they force so many turnovers and they also turn the ball over so much. And Phillip Rivers throws an uncanny number of pick sixes, so I'm kind of into this. I like that idea. All right, Cheats. Any other brainchild we want to drop on these guys for the rest of the Falcons defense? I think that I'm going to pass on. I mean, look, you might take a Falcons defense here or there, but I think that's an interesting way of looking at it. Thanks, Ken. Sheets, anything else before we get out of here? People ask some QQs, and Sheets will give us some thoughts, and we'll get out of here soon.
Yeah, I mean, nothing particularly fancy for me this week, honestly. I will reiterate. It's been such a long day. I don't even remember what we talked about it in this show or the one before. But if you want a game that could explode, just because the way these games just sometimes happen, is this Cleveland-Pittsburgh game could really go nuts. So if you like. He was another Pittsburgh guy you like, right? Besides the normal one?
James Washington is like my sneaky one.
Right. So, if you didn't get there with Claypool last week, right? Try James Washington this week. It's very possible that, you never know. And I like the shoot. I like Juju. I like Claypool again. Don't think it's such a sucker bet. That's what you're going to hear. Like first of all, for those of you that think that he's going to get 4 touchdowns again, you're seriously mistaken. Okay, so he doesn't get 4 touchdowns again. But the fact is that he got Ben Roethlisberger, who's going to be out, one of his top wide receivers, and he's going to say, "Who am I looking for? Oh boy, where was the guy who scored 4 touchdowns last week? Maybe it's not the worst idea in the world to look for. You know what I mean? So it's it's not you're not playing to score 4 touchdowns, but to just ignore him completely because of he had such an outlier last week. It doesn't mean he has to get 0 this week. So. And then Cleveland, you have Mayfield slinging it. You can get Beckham and Landry and get that thing going. You made a good point, Bobby, that sometimes, might not have the time to get the ball downfield. But, you know what? For $1 million, he'll find a way. I don't know.
All right. I like it. Looks like we have one thought, or I guess, I don't know if it's a question, Claypool ownership percentage. I would bet that it ends up somewhere in the 15 to 20% range. Right now, it's projected around 10 to 15 most places I've looked, but I think I'll be a little higher with the confirmation of Johnson out.
Oh, really? Okay.
And maybe even a little bit higher than that potentially, but I don't know. It's still a little bit early to figure it out. There's a lot of late game tout speak seems to affect things these days. So
yeah,
the initial projected ownership. I mean, what was a great? What's funny is even Lev Bell got a little bit of love after we talked about it. Not we, but like everybody else started. Other people were talking about it too. But there was one that was crazy recently. That it was a guy who no one was talking about. That all of a sudden on Sunday everybody was talking about it. And he was like 30% owned, and he did nothing. I can't remember who it was.
Who?
I can't remember. It might have been 2 weeks ago. I'll think of that one for another show. All right, guys. Anyway, for Sheets, for everyone at BetQL, QLTV, RotoQL, etc., we appreciate you being with us, and we look forward to seeing you at the top of the leaderboards. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you later. Good luck, Bobby.
Good luck.